Hey everyone, and welcome to day 6 of our low code marathon. I hope everybody is excited as I am. This is one of my favorite topics. We are going to be looking at the financial industry of the future and how low code can help financial service industry advance their initiatives. So, going to be a great conversation today. We have another packed agenda. And again, how to create a low-code company, this time for financial services. And as we can see, we've got sessions surrounding digital transformation for banking, how to make an agile and customer-centric institution, as well as how do we empower front office processes for modern banks and credit unions and making them more efficient. And then finally, we're going to have a great roundtable on global financial services landscape. So, great agenda. Everybody, pay attention because it's going to be a good session. We'd also like to announce our quiz winners from yesterday's session. As everybody might be aware, we are conducting a quiz at the end of every day and giving away some fabulous prizes. And yesterday was no exception. So the question was, up to what percentage can low code reduce development time? And the correct answer was 90%. And we've got one winner from yesterday. So our day 5 winner was Bhavana Ram. Bhavana, if you're tuned in, we will be sending an email at the end of our marathon that will explain the gift. So congratulations, and that should provide some incentive for everyone to join and take part in the marathon sessions. All right. I also want to mention our Run the Race prize as well, right? So we have a solution or a prize to give out for those who have attended 10 days or more of the marathon, and we will be giving out 3 iPads to individuals that qualify for that prize. So 10 days, and we will select 3 winners at the end of the marathon. So again, more incentive to join our sessions day by day. Before we get started, I just want to remind us that if you have questions for our panelists and speakers, to please use the chat section of the platform to submit those questions. And we'll do our best to facilitate those. If not, we have some online team that will be answering questions as well. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. All right. And that brings us to our first session, our trendsetter session. And we're going to be talking about digital transformation for banking in 2021. And we're joined by a great panel of speakers. We have Srini Kandikonda, EVP of Solutions Americas from Mitra Innovations, Sebastian Forget, from President and Owner from Solutions Metrics, and our very own Josh Human, sales team leader here at Creatio. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you.
All right. Go right ahead. I am sorry. I don't want to step on your presentation, Josh. Jump right in.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. Right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. We are here for the first show of the day, Digital Transformation for Banking in 2021. It's going to be a general introduction and overview to the uses of low code for banking or other financial institutions. So thank you very much for joining us. The agenda for today will start with a brief introduction to ourselves and the companies that we come from. We'll then give an industry outlook of banking for 2021. We'll then have a look at Creatio, low-code CRM, and BPM for banks. So how Creatio, how our own product is designed, especially for working with banks and financial institutions. And then we'll finish with some real-life customer cases to see how other banks have been utilizing low-code technology to benefit what they're doing. And at the end, we will have Q&A, so please do ask questions. There is a chat. Feel free to ask questions throughout as well, and we'll try and get back to you when we can. So first, let me hand over to Srini to introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Hello, everybody. Good morning. This is Srinivas Kandikunda from Mitra Innovation. I have several years of experience doing CRM solutions in the BFSI industry. And I'm happy to share some of the real world use cases a little later today and answer any questions that you may have. So as I said, I'm from Mitra. So we've been around for a while, since 2012. We have over 250 employees throughout the world. A majority of the work that we could do is we have a lot of core development happening, and we do a lot of proof of concepts for customers where we can quickly show them the value of the platform and then jump right into the configuration and the implementation. And a large focus of what we do is mapping out to the outcomes that our customers are looking for. And that has really helped us in making sure that we have a successful implementation right from the get-go.
Wonderful. Thank you, Srini. And we also have Sebastian Forget from Solution Metrics. Sebastian?
Yes, thanks, Joshua. Hi, everyone. Sebastian. So I'm a CRM guy by training. I've been in the CRM world even before it was named CRM. I had the opportunity to start a business more than 10 years ago. We're only focused on CRM. Personally, I'm a technical guy at heart, but always worked in business. So graduated as an engineer, but actually working more on the business consulting side. So, and a little more about Solution Metrics. So we're we've been around the block for a little more than 20 years. We have offices in Canada and US. We just opened now in Mexico. So we have about 70 employees. And Solution Metrics, it's a business consulting firm that happen to work in CRM. So we understand that installing and configuring a CRM is not the end goal. The overarching goals of CRM, especially in the finance industry, things like better serve your customer, improve the retention rate, upsell, cross-sell. So we can consult on that. And also became with time really good in user adoption and change management, which our prospect and customer appreciate a lot. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sebastian. And let me introduce myself. My name is Josh Human. I'm a sales team lead with Creatio based in London, the UK. So I would be the newbie to CRM, having only been here for around 2 years. But I joined Creatio after doing sales in various other areas. And actually, we were using other CRMs and other BPM tools. And then when I saw the pitch for Creatio and actually saw what it could do, I immediately recognized this low-code technology is going to change things, and immediately wanted to become involved. So that's my background and why I'm here. Let me give you a little bit of information about Creatio ourselves. So we have 5 offices around the globe with our headquarters in Boston. We have around 650 employees, and more than half of them work in R&D. And that's why over the last 3 or 4 years, Creatio's technology and capabilities has been able to develop so quickly. We have around 700 partners working worldwide in over 110 different countries. These are partners like Mitra Innovations and Solutions Metrics, who do a lot of the development and implementation work for us. And we are highly recognized by Gartner and Forrester and G2 and many other industry analysts. Most notably with Gartner, we're in their leader quadrant for certain areas of the CRM tools. So we are doing very well for company, as known as Creatio. So today we are focusing on our financial services area. So financial services is one of actually our biggest verticals at Creatio. We work with banks, digital banks, brick and mortar banks, insurance, investment companies, working with companies across the Americas, Europe, Middle East, and APAC. So really worldwide. And you can see a few of these guys on here, most notably BNP Paribas, ENT Credit Union, Saskatchewan Blue Cross Insurance, and various others who are all utilizing this low-code technology to provide CRM and BPM services exactly as they need it. Okay, and now I will hand over to Srini to present the banking industry outlook for 2021.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So just like every other industry or most of them, everybody here, I'm sure, realizes that what kind of an impact that COVID-19 had within the banking industry. Anything that's going from contactless, not going into the lobby, branches closing out, and everybody, including several of these regional, local, national banks, trying to figure out how to make sure that they stay competitive, stay ahead of the competition, and at the same time, continue to look at from a business point of view, what kind of an innovation do they need to bring in, and how to stay engaged with their customers. Now, when you look at some of the challenges that as you go from here, COVID-19 definitely precipitated quite a few, but then if you look at the next set of major challenges that the industry is focusing on, some of these are fairly self-explanatory. If you look at how the banks are trying to personalize their services and their approach to several of the target market. I mean, if you look at all the different segmentation that the banks serve, it can range anywhere from Gen X, Gen Z, you have millennials, you have baby boomers, whatnot. And how each one of the segment works with a bank or interacts is very different from the rest of the folks. I personally still like to walk into a bank and get greeted by the teller by my first name. Whereas, I look at my son, he is in his early 20s, and I don't know whether he has even stepped into a lobby. And the other day that he needed to get a cashier's check, and he's like, why can't I do this online? And I'm like, well, we have been going to cash a check into the bank to get it because it's a physical piece of paper that you need. And he hated that kind of an experience. Now, part of that is actually trying to keep up with the technology. And I think as the banks are trying to figure this out, it will lead into that. But many of us, like when I was when I was his age, I had to, walk into a bank to deposit a check or write a bunch of checks using my checkbook in doing that all manually. All that has changed in the last 20 some years using the technology. And right now, when you look at some of the new integrations with the neobanks, what they're doing and how they're forcing the traditional banking model, all the banks will need to make sure that they are keeping up with the technologies. You have several examples like Zelle, Venmo integrations, which I haven't, even thought of, 5 years ago. Now, while banks are trying to do this, it's not all just to stay focused on the customer, but part of it is also trying to make sure that they're keeping up with the competition. Who can be the leader? Who can the follower? And what does it mean, to kind of keep up this race, and what kind of investments they need to make? And, me personally, I have seen a lot of change in the last 20 to 30 years in how banks used to be and where we need to go, combined with how the user segmentation is changing from a 20-year-old to a 70-year-old. That's all just front end. And Sebastian has a lot of other experience going into what does it mean on the back end side of the banks.
Absolutely. So, and unfortunately, there's some bank in one of their challenges that emanates from technology is the mainframe systems that they have. So back office system, unfortunately, will give a little of difficult when we talk about lack of visibility for data-driven decision, for example. they have lots of data. So our customers have lots of data. The data per se is not the problem. Is to transform the data into information, so they can take real-time decision and be able to manipulate the data in a way where it can help better serve their customer. So and also talk here about the workforce is that as post-pandemic in financial industry, like in IT and other field construction, they go into a major lack of resources. So we've seen that our customer sees not only Creatio and cloud system as a better way to serve the customer, but better employee experience, because people are using, Airbnb, Uber Eats, Uber for taxi, and then they come to work and they have their old, I don't want to say Oracle, old type of system, but those big screen that they'd have to do F1, F2, F3 to scroll between and have 5 different screen open in order to answer a customer question. So there's a big clash in there. So those topics also motivate the reason why banking, financial, insurance industry needs to move into more nimble systems. Like in low code today, we're going to discuss about the low code, which is a pillar into that digital transformation. So Creatio is a great platform for that.
Okay, guys, and now a quick poll for those of you listening. What is the major challenge for the banking industry in 2021? What is the biggest challenge? Is it personalized customer experience, technology integration, data management, competition with neobanks, or ensuring digital experience for the workforce? This poll should be popping up on your screen. Please give your answers and we will get back to that soon. But in the name of time, we will continue with our slides.
Yeah, so all those challenges that that the panel has been talking about is manifesting itself in several ways to address that, and what are the key solutions from a technology point of view, what's happening. And some of these names are fairly well understood. Chatbots, I think a lot of people, every one of us probably we have come across how those things work, and what is the earlier design of chatbot to take care of some of the most mundane set of questions that any customer would have in asking to a bank, hey, what's my login, or I forgot my password, can you help me this? Some of those very basic stuff chatbots have actually taken care of, but there are some complex questions where what they need to be doing is how do I address a basic question to a complex question, and where does the chatbot would stop its and hand over the control to a real person who can answer the question and do the research, like what Sebastian was talking about, going into different screens and trying to figure out what the real answer is. So definitely chatbot has a place. And in addition to that, if you look at some of the artificial intelligence engines and the algorithms that are coming through, there are several of those that are already in place to address some of the most common questions and to try to reduce the amount of manual time it takes. And what are the things that can be, the AI engine can actually drive that to a chatbot, or maybe do that from a different point of a solution, and see what is that the spectrum of reach that the chatbot can go from what it is doing today to what it can do tomorrow, so that you're still providing meaningful answers, but not, hey, I'm a robot here, what can I do for you, what is your name, and let me find the next agent, right? So that's really not helpful. So chatbots are going to be expanding their footprint in mimicking as much knowledge and as much answers that they can do that a typical human being is doing right now. So in addition to that, we talked about some of the challenges that the market is changing, and nobody really predicted COVID is going to happen, and things have changed so much that if I'm a bank sitting there on lots of legacy code and lots of applications that are monolithic in nature, how do I react so quickly to go after these kind of customer behaviors that have changed on the dime? And unless you have a platform as like a low code you won't be able to, spin on the head in such a short time and make sure that you are providing the solutions and the applications that your customers are looking for, that they have not been looking in the last 6 months. And what kind of a technology can do that? It's essentially the adoption of low code. And the several other challenges that you would see from a solutioning point of view is open banking. I think a lot of banks are adapting to it. It is still relatively young in terms of what it is doing and what's the promise is, where we are today and what we need to do with all that interoperable APIs that needs to work together from bank to bank, and how to essentially become the backbone of cross-platform banking sharing data. That's definitely very exciting, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to open up a new set of opportunities for all the banks to adapt it and then provide the solutions. Many of you already may have heard blockchain. That's definitely making a lot of inroads. It comes with a lot of promise, especially trying to automate and make these transactions, preferably without any middleman like a bank, and what kind of a ledger transactions that out will come, and what kind of a threat or an opportunity that the blockchain would provide. Definitely, I personally see that there is small inroads that are already happening, but there is a lot of uncertainty around what's the adoption of that blockchain is going to be, what is the way to do it, and what is not the way to do it. I definitely see that some of that is going to be coming through in the next couple of years as we see more and more of the use cases mature themselves.
Perfect. And so we briefly talk about it, but the digital transformation is the premises and its pillar into better being more competitor, better serve your customer. And what does this mean in terms of the underlying or pillar that needs to be in place? So first, digitize the key business process. So when it's manual, when there's too much clerical work involved into a transaction or a process or a use case or flow, or it became slow. It becomes complex, and we talked about, or I talked about, the lack of resources. So we need to take human that we have, and employees that we have, and contributors that we have in our businesses, and they need to work on the high value activity. Things like cut and pasting into different systems, retyping stuff, taking notes, lengthy notes. It's not a value added activity. So by digitalizing your business process, what you're actually doing is you're removing from the equation the low value work, like taking lengthy notes and doing stuff that is not really a value. And what this does is you can take your valuable employee and he can contribute to the business by having better insight into to customer, to prospect, and really enrich the customer experience. So, and then also what it allows is to change faster. So when we talk about low code platform, I see change faster. That's the reason why low code exists. The reason why low code exists is because it's complex to go through a full software development lifecycle. So having lots of programmer testing, deploying. So I'm personally knowledgeable on that. I've done it for years. And when we talk about low code, I see ROI. I see change faster. I see better serve your customer, omni-channel experience. So everything, upsell, cross-sell, AI stuff. So everything that is the premise to digital transformation. So low code means change faster. And since we have those possibilities, we can now be different in the way we engage with our customer. So in financial institution, for example, every bank has its own persona. They have the high net worth customer, they have more transactional customer, etc., etc. So you can serve customer really, really well. You don't have to neglect everyone. You can have an offer that's really precise. You can interact. You can be proactive. You can make sure that they have great experience with the bank. So by leveraging the local platform. So those look simple on the slide. Those three things, not necessarily simple to change the mindset, because the technology is there. The good news in June 2021, and Creatio made it. The technology is there. So it's to actually embrace those changes into a financial institution in order to implement those and leverage the power of those three pillars. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sebastian. Good. So now is my chance to actually introduce Creatio and what we do. Before we get there, our results are in for the poll. What are the biggest challenges facing banks? Just a quick rundown. In number one came data management with 37.5%. Technology integration in number two with 18%. And a tied place for number two. I apologize. Technology integration and ensure best digital experience. And then competition with neobanks and personalized customer experience tied in third place. So I'm not sure what you guys think about that, but data management in at number one as the biggest challenge. Okay, so a quick look at Creatio. So what do we mean by using Creatio for low code to create this integrated banking platform? So what you're looking at here is a functionality and process map where some of our customers are using Creatio in all these different areas. So what you'll see on the left-hand side are that Creatio is providing services on the CRM, so that's sales, marketing, and service, and then all the way through front office functionality, middle office, and corporate services. So this means that Creatio, as a single integrated platform, is providing things such as customer onboarding, account operations. You've got loan origination, and also things like KYC or AML, very specific banking industry processes, all created using the Creatio low code, and then able to actually configure them or tailor them exactly as each bank or financial institution needs that process to be. So we have some customers come to us where they've been looking for a specific tool to manage their KYC, or they've been looking for a specific tool to manage their loan origination, and people don't realize that actually you can have one platform that can do all these things, and you can then configure that to exactly as you need it. And that's really kind of the power of the low code that we're all talking about here. Okay, so what does this actually mean for your business? Well, you're improving the bank customer journey, but really the customer journey from when they enter the bank, or when they call, or when they email, or when they're on WhatsApp, it improves their journey with the business, because everyone they speak to has access to their information. We took the winner of the poll was data management. So everyone working at the bank has access to that data, whether it's service, sales, the person who speaks to you when you walk into the bank. They all have access to your history, so they know how to speak to you and you get that personalized service. Similar with the sales teams, whether it's for retail banking, for larger customers, they've got that full history, they know what's going on, they're giving that personalized service. And this is really the same throughout the bank. So we have here on the screen, you've got lending, marketing, but all these different areas and all these different departments that have their own processes, their own needs. You can set up the system exactly as they need it using the low code, and as and when they need to change it, they can again change it on the fly, and be very responsive to the market, be very responsive to new regulations, new compliance needs when they need to. And at the bottom, you'll see it's all sat across this unified customer data platform, and that's really that unified system which we just showed on that previous slide. Okay, and then just to kind of summarize the benefits here, and I don't want to get too repetitive on this slide, but the low code benefits really permeate through the entire business. Really, anyone that comes in contact with software, their life is going to be made much better using this low code methodology and way of doing things. So with app delivery, so the creation of a new service, a new functionality, you're doing this the traditional way through hard coding. It takes a long time. If ever you've worked for a business and you've had to put a request in for a change to the system, and then you wait a week or a month, and eventually you don't even know if you need that change anymore. you'll know what this problem is. Whereas with the low code, you might get that change made within days or quicker, depending on what it is. So using the low code where it's all drag and drop, it becomes much quicker and much easier to do. This idea of solution scope. So when you have this traditional way of developing software, you're always constricted by the time and the money it costs to do things, not by actually what you want to do. So you're not going to have those same restrictions with low code because it's so much quicker and cost effective to actually set up a system that you need it. So whatever you need the solution to do, when you need it to do it, it can be configured in that way. All the way through to the kind of maintenance advantages. Again, we see a lot of customers who've been sat with the same system for maybe 5-10 years. They've spent a lot of money on this system, and it costs them a lot of money every year to maintain it, to make any small changes, the customizations. People are stuck, they're not happy, but the thought of changing sounds very expensive and very difficult. So then again, when we speak to them about this low code way of doing things, and we show them, oh, that tool that you spent $200,000 developing last year, we can set that up for you in a week or two now for a fraction of the price. People start to realize that the total cost of ownership here is so much better with a low code platform. And again, with the integrations, it's the same situation again. Rather than going through these long processes of developing these custom integrations with low code, again, there's a lot of pre-built connectors. There's a much quicker tools designed to help you build those connections through APIs and various other ways. And just general lifecycle management and delivery of the platform. If ever you have worked for a company that has switched to a new CRM or a new major software and gone through that whole process, it can take years to finally get this up and running. There's a lot of planning. Everyone's a bit worried about getting it right first time. There's lots of different phases where you get a tiny part of the software and then it takes another 6 months till you get to another part. It's all very costly. It all takes a long time. Whereas with the low code platform, because it's so much quicker to set things up, you can actually go live in one step with everything as you want it. So it's just a much quicker, much more cost effective, much more flexible way of using software. Okay, and then here I will hand back to Srini to present on KYC use case.
Yeah, sure. So, so what does this mean? Like, we have talked about the challenges, and then we have talked about how the technology changes are. Let's see how some of these actually have come to fruition for a large US regional bank that we have worked with. If you look at it, this regional bank, this is no different challenge for many of them. They cater to three main segments. There is the urban population, and then there is the SMBs, small, medium businesses, as well as the rural community in terms of their farming loans and how to make sure that the farming community from a rural market is taken care of. Now, as you have seen that there is a lot of pressure coming from how different segments of these target customers are interacting with the bank. Not only that, they also have a lot of pressure from the neobanks. Although neobanks, typically haven't made inroads into the farming community or the rural community, they are very popular with the urban population. This regional bank saw that as a threat and tried to ensure that, what is that I need to do to make sure that I'm not only securing my base of revenue that is coming through, but what do I need to do going forward? And how do I get new customers? How do I make sure that they are staying with me? And how can I personalize our services and offerings to them such that they see us a valuable partner, not just that we are taking their money, putting in a savings account and give them, a very pitiful amount of interest back. That's not necessarily exciting to anybody. So the bank, what they did was that they looked at all their current challenges. This is slightly before pre-COVID, so COVID has changed some of that, but whatever that these guys are doing really accelerated the overall, implementation path. And, one of the things that what they had to do was, how do I know, who do I go to, or how do I, get my customers back to me? How do I engage with them? How do I make the paperwork kind of process easier for them? And oh, by the way, while I'm looking on the front end, I have all these backend systems, the huge core banking systems that I need to work with, and how do I integrate those things? And they also have a lot of future requirements. I'll get to that use case a little later. But when I looked at their core current requirements around CRM, BPM, what we have done is we mapped that to the solution. And when we looked at the solution, it's talking very clearly to a KYC initiative and how do I attract, retain, and expand the footprint within my customers. Now, if you look at the solutions that what we have, we did the CRM implementation for them, and we integrated that with the marketing solution. Made sure that we have all the target segmentation from a marketing campaign and all is done properly, integrated that with a huge content engine on the back end, so that all the marketing events are resulting in the key outcomes. Essentially, they needed to expand the number of customers coming into the bank, essentially whatever be the customer. And also, how do I ensure that these customers are staying happy by tracking the NPS? Now, attracting the customers to the bank is one thing, but making sure that we are onboarding them properly and give them a good experience is also another thing. For that, we have used the business process engine to make sure that the different workflows are taken care of and reduce the amount of paperwork and the level of frustration that any customer would have, whether it's an online onboarding or somebody walks into the branch. How do we do that? Don't ask them to sign their name like in 100 different places. Can I just capture their signature once and then be able to do it? Things like as simple as that to improve that overall user experience, gone a long way. And we are looking at some future implementations of AI models. Here is something very unique. If I share the use case with you, this bank just doesn't want to be purely as a banking partner, but they really want to partner with their communities looking out. So what they're looking for cases is like, especially from a farming community, they want to be hooked into some AI models that will use both public and private data to forecast, is there a drought expected to come by? If that happens in the next 2-3 months, what does that mean in terms of a federal relief or a state relief that should go back to their farming community, and what kind of a paperwork would that entail, and how does the bank bring those grant reliefs to the rural communities so quickly and be able to do that much in advance rather than having to wait for the drought to hit and then put a process in place, and then by the time you're already 6 to 9 months into that whole cycle, which is not helpful for that community. So they want to use these predictive analytic models to really figure out what's going to happen in the future and be prepared and be very, very responsive in helping their community. Those are some of the use cases that we are looking at from a future implementation for them. And when we look at the benefits that the whole solution has given to them, unknowingly, the whole low-code platform has become such a key platform element for them within the overall ecosystem. While they have their backend, core banking systems, they also now have found a whole new set of expectations that they have, both from a development community and the citizen developers, that hey, this is something that I can do a lot quicker and then be able to meet the changing requirements from their customer community so quickly. One of the things that, as I said earlier in the beginning, was that we track backwards from the key outcomes that we want to look for and then kind of design the system in achieving those outcomes. Now, in this case, the number of conversions from customers to real customers and the increased stickiness is extremely high. And not only that, the NPS score of these customers when they did the surveys has gone up by 60%. That's a huge boost for them, especially when the banks are struggling with a lot of other macro challenges. Keeping the existing customers happy and attracting the new ones is extremely useful from a financial point of view. And with that, I would like to encourage all of you to look at our new website that we just launched. It's called Low Codify. It is primarily targeted towards all the Creatio solutions. We have a set of experts sitting ready to answer your questions. please sign up at lowcodify.co.uk. Very soon there will be more domains coming through that. And if you have any questions around what is the right way to do it, or what is the not the right way to do it, or what are some of the questions that you may have around low-code platform in general and Creatio in particular, please free to jump in there, ask us your questions, and we'll get in touch with you. I'll be happy to take any questions towards the end, but let me pass down to Sebastian for the next case study.
Perfect. Thank you, Srini. So I'm going to speak about a few customers we have in the Caribbean. And I think it's the typical use case of what other financial institutions are a challenge with and facing some challenge. So first, and you said it, Joshua, earlier, and this phrase was really good. The companies are limited by the system in terms of resources of what they can do, right? The limitation is the resources for this that they can allocate to change the core system. Low code, it reverse the mindset. So it's a transformation from system driven to customer driven. So the limitation is not necessarily the system, is what can you do? So it reverses it because it makes the ROI case so easy to invest in because it's not very costly. That the limitation is what do you want to do, not what can we afford or what can we do with the resources we have. For sure, we don't have any unlimited resources, but having a low-code platform allows us to go so much faster and way easier than it switched from being caught on not enough resources and time to let's do it, go, and we can brainstorm on how we can work with our customers. So, and I know we're behind, so I'm gonna go quick in here, but the challenges, because they're similar to what Srini just said, I think the financial institution, so they don't have that much real-time information, they work in silo, they manage a lot of spreadsheets, so, and those spreadsheets, as we know, don't speak one to each other, so they don't have a customer profile at 360 degrees, and things that are core in the customer relationship management, which are in normally a core banking system, things like, for example, the loan origination, the underwriting process, all those things that are really close to the customer. And this is where, if your customer is happy in that cycle, he will stay way more longer with the bank, right? So it's all about managing customer experience, making them happy, and the way to do it is those more transactional process, you transform them into a customer-driven process. Even in things like underwriting, loan origination, where it's more I read as an experience to go through, you transform them with the local platform in a customer-driven experience. So so our banks, they manual process are easy to replace with automation in a local platform. So competitive advantage. So they can go quick in having new programs, new offer, new promotion, because marketing and sales are now working together. So they don't have their marketing systems aside, and then they don't know what sales is doing, and vice versa. So and we work on the corporate side of the business as well as the consumer side of the business, even make them work together. So as a business owner, for example, can be a great lead for the consumer side. So and the full journey is also part of Creatio and what we've done for our customer, because and especially the onboarding for the important customer, the customer onboarding when they are transactioning with the bank will increase not only the NPS but the churn rate. So and the upsell cross sell throughout the journey. So I think we can go to the next slide, Josh. I know we're behind, so I'm trying to catch up here. But so what Creatio provided to those customers, and we're talking here some bigger banks. So Trinidad and Tobago has bigger banks than, for example, AC or other. But it's a unified process automation through a CRM platform. So you enable your customer relationship management by alleviating a lot of the manual tasks required and or spreadsheets normally required in order to have the data and the information. So having this in one platforms, coupled with AI, coupled with automation, coupled with an holistic view of all your customer, having the digitalization of those process and paper and transaction as well, makes the unified process way easier to enable. So actually, the users, okay, either sales marketing from the teller to the iNet worker, they get value out of the platform. So it's not just a savvy database. The CRM really become a platform to manage the relationship with your customer. So it reversed, like what we said, it's not system driven, it's customer success driven, it's customer happiness driven. That's what you're looking for in those sets of projects. So those are the overarching goals of the project. And this week is the local marathon. So the local enabled that piece of of implementation to go faster. And an example is we have one of our customer. So for example, we say a citizen developer, meaning that you don't need to be, have a computer degree in order to do changes in the local platform. So at one of our customer is the business analyst that manage the different process. So they can go in, change the process if need to. So there's still some so there's a gating process. You don't want all your employees to change your process, but you don't need to go to the IT department. IT is there, is involved, is aware, is supporting, is making sure that the security. So there's a way to all the security, privacy, and all the regulation is taken care of. But your BA in your department can enable those changes. So that's another way to say what's in here. So and I want to finish on that is what are the premises to a good successful implementation. So first we get solid involvement on client top management. Why? Because it's not an IT project anymore. It's a strategic process for the business. So banks want to be more competitive, more customer centric, et cetera, et cetera. So we get the attention from the top management. So we get the vision. So it results in a project the tactics that we consult on based on the best practices are in line with the overarching goals of CRM. Second is it's the dates and the calendar is way easier to manage. So we have release plans. So we're going through something that is easier for the customer to consume. And we normally, and I know Srini is doing the same thing, is we're going to go on a lighter release version 1. You don't have to go for the whole bank approach and get a big 18 months project out of the gate. You can recover ROI normally 4 to 6 months after we started. And then from there, we do different releases. So availability. So since those kind of projects are not on the side, they really involved with the business, the availability and the radio stakeholder are there. So for sure, we contribute by our experience in the banking industry on the best practices and the ways to do things, the way of working, and we know the stats, and so that's definitely a key to success. But and then some IT project can be difficult in terms of methodology. The local no-code being more agile and is a premise to be more agile. It makes it easy for customer as well to be involved in the project management, project methodology, to have a momentum into creating those requirements of a new functionality. So definitely five enablers by the local platform. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Sebastian. Okay, so here should have been our Q&A section, but I'm afraid we all got a bit carried away and spoke a bit too long. So there will not be time for Q&A. Hopefully your questions have been answered in the chat directly. But thank you very much for joining us. Srini, Sebastian, thank you very much for speaking. And I believe now I hand over back to Eric. Are you there?
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
Riveting
you.
conversation. Yeah, the chat is alive with questions, but good to see our sales director, Mike Dukin, out there answering questions for everybody. So thank you again, guys.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. All right, so moving right along, folks, we are going into our next session, and it's going to be a real-life low-code experience with our customer, OTP Bank. And I'm joined today by Konstantin Mares, who is the Executive Director of IT and Chief Digital Officer at OTP Bank. Konstantin really has a lot of experience in commercial and retail banking, also on the operation side and IT. Obviously, you know, recognize the power of low code to help transform the business at OTP. So, Konstantin, are you out there, sir? Excellent. Well, for today's session, we have Konstantin Mares, who is the Chief Digital Officer at OTP Group. Hi, Konstantin. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Very glad to be here with you today.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining our Low Code Marathon. And it's been a great 6 days of meetings, and I think that this one is going to be nothing short of that. So I appreciate you being here. So maybe we could start with you know, a quick question. You know, I know that the OTP Group is one of the largest, or is the largest independent financial service provider in Central and Eastern Europe. What do you guys attribute your success to?
That is correct, Eric. Actually, OTP Group went very well through the crisis, and we are one of the fastest financial group that recovered in terms of market cap and in terms of stability of the capital position and so on. And the markets and the clients appreciated that and continue to give and allow their trust using our services. And the second part of the success was due to the very successful acquisition strategy that OTP had in the region. We went over 7 integrations. All of them were done successfully, not only from the merger point of view, legal merger point of view, but also from the integration of the customer base of the 2 banks. And this allowed very profitable and healthy growth of the group in the region.
Excellent, excellent. And it's good to see and good to hear that as well. So Konstantin, tell us what prompted OTP Group to embrace a software-driven innovation and overhaul your entire IT infrastructure throughout the entire organization. What prompted that move for you?
First of all, what I explained earlier, the need to grow was one of the main drivers of this software innovation process within OTP. And banks' main assets today are information and trust. And that is why banks become more and more similar with a software house. And their ability to stay close to the customer is very much dependent on the ability to change and to be near the customer. And this prompted the software innovation that you are mentioning.
Mm-hmm. So why did you decide to go with a low-code platform for process management and CRM?
So as mentioned about the growth several times already, also in Romania, we wanted to have a very aggressive growth. We want to double the market share of OTP in Romania. And that is why we are looking for improving the customer experience, and we were looking to improve the processes. So we are looking at the tool to integrate process management capabilities with CRM, so to be able to understand better the client, to target better the client, and in the end to serve better the client. And this is why we looked in the market, and we decided to start the cooperation with you few years back.
Mm-hmm. Great. And yeah, it's been great for our relationship. We really look to OTP as one of our flagship customers. And if there are other banking industry professionals listening to this, what would you say are the biggest benefits of low code for financial institutions?
I think there are two benefits that I would like to underline. First of all is the time to market. We are able to go with changes for the customer much faster than before. And we are talking about significant changes, not just iterative changes. And that's the first benefit, being able to be faster, to respond faster to the customer needs and changes of the market, regulations, and so on. The second benefit is the fact that we can do such changes on our own without depending on the vendors, on the big software houses that have their own limitations and interests. So the fact that we don't need to build really to copy another software house in the bank, this is one of the key benefits. We have, of course, a team of programmers and analysts on the IT side, but the cooperation with business is much easier because we are talking the same language.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are the two.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I really believe that low code does bridge that gap between business and IT,
Yeah.
And really promotes collaboration throughout the organization. So when we look at your use of the low code platform, what business benefits have you been able to gain? What KPIs have you been using to measure the success of the program?
Yeah, so I will not repeat what I said earlier, because obviously we gained time to market, faster time to market. We are able to deliver changes much faster. But one of the main pain point that we addressed was the bureaucracy. And we are looking at the customer experience, and we are measuring NPS, we are measuring TRIM scores. So one of the key driver and success indicator for us, for the bank, was to improve the customer experience. And we are able to do this by using the platform that we built together. Mm-hmm. And another important factor was to be where the customer was. So the traditional approach is to have a list of products and services on the shelf and ask the customer to come to your office and do business the traditional way. What we changed is that we wanted to be where the customer is. We wanted to be where the need for the customer appeared, and this was also an important indicator to be where the customer is and to understand what is his need, and not to push something from the bank side, but to understand his need and being able to respond to that need. And this was another important change that we had. And I would say the third factor, because a bank has a very complex infrastructure. We are talking about hundreds of applications. Some banks have even thousands of applications. And then the effort of integration becomes a nightmare. And what we are able to do was to standardize the processes, standardize the communication between the back office and the front-end applications. And this standardization really helped us with the faster deliveries, with getting to customers as I said, faster, but also controlling the cost of the integration with the other systems.
Mm. Yeah, I think you brought up some really important points there, Constantine. When we look at the customer experience, it can be the last true differentiator for financial institutions. And with so many competitors coming from different areas and different, fintechs and online banks and traditional banks, all of the competition that we see, you have to be able to differentiate yourself. And I think that that's what OTP does very well. It is that customer experience that's going to gain you new customers, retain your customers, and then also the services that you provide. As you mentioned, so many points of integration. Every other quarter, there's a new application rolling out, and you need to be able to adapt to that very quickly. So, thinking about that, like future technology and future, plans, what do you think are the next steps for you in your digital journey?
So, first of all, when we are talking about the banking customer, this customer does not compare OTP with other banks only. They are comparing OTP with Facebook, with Google, with any other interactions that he's having on a mobile phone or another technology platform. So we really have to be on the forefront of the user experience and making the interactions with the bank seamless for the customer. And this is one of the things that we'll continue to do to understand what the customer wants and to make this interaction with the bank seamless. And we'll improve continuously on the user experience side. Another area that we'll look at is the extending what we already did with the online onboarding and extending loans completely online on the legal entities. So we'll address micro companies, we'll address SMEs, and we will extend such seamless services not only to the private individuals but also to the companies. And the third thing I would like to mention is that we've seen that the need of digital services increased during the pandemic and even after. And we want to, said earlier, to be where the customer wants us to be. And we launch video banking services. So we launch a series of other services just to complement what we have in terms of channel and product offering, and ease the interaction of the customers with the bank, with OTP.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And as you went through this journey of transformation, were there any lessons learned? What would you do differently if you had to do it all over again?
I'm not a modest person, so I would say that I would do everything again like we did. And I will explain. When the pandemic started, we sit together at the table with the board of OTP, with the key stakeholders, and we look what do we have to change now that the customers are not visiting branches, what we need to do, how we need to reposition ourselves. And actually what we decided is that we will not change anything from our strategy, but we will only accelerate the initiatives that we had in our plan. And that's why we launch faster the online onboarding, where the customer doesn't have to visit the bank in order to become a customer. We eliminated the wet signature. We replaced everything with digital signatures. We offer the possibility of the clients to have loans online, again, without visiting the bank. And I believe this is the winning strategy for us. Of course, there were elements that we could do better and faster. And I can even give an example of how we started our cooperation many years ago. I think it was 2017. We started to work in a waterfall methodology. And after months discussing around document specification, we realized that this is not the way we can be successful. And together with Catherine, your CEO, Catherine Kosterova, and your team, we decided that it's the time to change the approach. We went into agile methodology. We started to work in sprints. And maybe a change would be to start faster such way of collaboration and give up on the traditional waterfall way. And other than that, I think we have the winning strategy, and we are confident that we have the right people inside, we have the right partners, we have you, and we have some other successful partners alongside, and I think we have a winning team.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely agree with that. I think we've had a successful partnership, and we look forward to continuing that in the future. So if we had what advice would you give to any financial institution that may be considering embracing low-code strategy? What advice would you give them? Where should they start? What would be their best course of action in your opinion?
Yeah. So I think the first advice I would give is that there are no silver bullets, including the low code. I think it's very good technology, very good platform, but don't expect that everything will be done by the business. So you have to be prepared to sustain the business with some business analysts, process analysts, and even some programmers. But after you do this, things will align much faster, and then the developments are implemented faster, and customers are happier because there is a better understanding between the different players within the bank and also outside the bank. And the last advice I would give: always think about the customer, about what he needs, not about what you want to sell. And I think this changes completely the paradigm, and the customers will notice that, and they will be happier, and they will come to us, and they will stay with us. So these are
absolutely. And I think that customer experience is definitely improved with low code. And I believe especially in your industry, it also helps the employees as well. I notice when I've talked to any financial institution, the amount of applications that your frontline employees have to kind of manage in a single customer transaction can be overwhelming. And I believe that low code brings that all together. The combination of low code and CRM brings that all together for them, giving even them a better experience so that they can service your customers better, right?
Yeah, that is correct. Actually, one of the main goals of implementing our solutions that we work together upon was to free up the time of the sellers, of the branch employees, to let's say free up their table of operational tasks, reporting tasks, bureaucratic activities, and give them more time to interact with customers, to talk with customers, to sell more, and to connect more and bond with customers. So this was indeed one of the key gain of implementing our digital strategy.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I believe that brings us to our time, Konstantin. Any parting words for the audience before we wrap up?
Thank you very much for being here with us today. I am very glad to be with you, Mike, and with your team. And I believe that we started, as I mentioned, our cooperation about 4 or 5 years ago. And this was the first collaboration like this that really changed the landscape of applications in OTP Bank Romania, but also the approach, as I mentioned earlier. We are thinking about the customer, and the cooperation with you was really the centerpiece of turning around the bank, changing the approach, and becoming more successful in the relationship with our customers. Mm-hmm. So thanks a lot. And I wish you good luck to continue to do the great things that you do, and help us serve the customers better and gain even more customers.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and it's no surprise that you are the largest financial institution in your region, and I think it's just because of that. You put the customer at the center of everything that you do, and good things happen, right?
Thanks a lot for the feedback, Eric. That's
All
correct.
right, Konstantin, have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Goodbye, everybody.
All right, and that brings us into our next session, guys. Another real life low code experience. And I am joined by my good friend, Nandish Madapati, who is going to be showing a demonstration of how low code can help front office processes become more efficient for banks and credit unions. Nandish, how are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Eric. How are you today?
I'm doing very, very well. Very, very well. Nandish has just got a ton of experience, over 20 years in the business. So really knows the ins and outs of the platform, and you guys are really going to enjoy this. So Nandish, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. And hey, good morning, everyone. As Eric indicated, 20 years in the business, but more importantly, 22 plus years as a banking customer. So that makes it a unique intersection of being the end customer of the banks and also being in the forefront of the technology. So I have a couple of quick slides to go through very quickly over what I want to present, but I do want to spend more of the time on the demonstration because that is the key component of this particular presentation. But before we get into the actual technical slides, we need to understand what are we trying to accomplish, right? So people have various sets of objectives that they want to do. When I talk to the regional banks or the credit union, I recently had a great experience working with the local credit union here in Massachusetts. And the user experience, customer experience that they provided me was amazing. And I believe they would do that because they recently had undergone digital transformations. So they knew exactly who I was. And they were not working with any legacy applications. So the amount of time it took for me to take that loan was so shortened. All of that is possible by having the modern architecture, making sure that the security perspective of the banking is watertight. I don't want my data to be leaked out. And more importantly, when I talk to the front-facing people in the bank or the credit union, I want them to be technically savvy. They should not be struggling to find information in their applications or whatsoever, right? So all of this is possible when the financial leaders make sure that the priorities are laid out very nice and clean with customer experience as a forefront. Now, with that priority out there, why are they doing that? Now, we all know that from the fintech perspective, Apple is coming into the forefront of the financial services, right? So when you go recently, they're very prominently displaying their Apple Card. They're prominently Amazon is doing the same thing. Uber is doing the same thing. So think about this boutique or regional banks or credit unions. They are now competing with the cash, the amazing financial powers of these Ubers, of Amazons and Apples. How do they make sure that they give them some sort of a competitive advantage? And the way that to do that is to make sure that they overcome adversity, right? They need to transform not only over a long period of time, but they also need to transform very, very quickly. So what we are now noticing is as you do some basic research, when you're talking to the CEOs for the consulting companies, they want to position and rapidly transform, not in 3 years, not in 5 years, but very quickly. And the short answer for all that is low code, no code. And keep in mind, when I talk about low code in here, I'm also including no code. Increasingly, no code is becoming much more prevalent than low code as and when millennial generation is coming in, as and when the technology is continuing to improve. But ultimately, there needs to be a specific monetary benefits for the CFOs of the companies, the CEOs of these banks to invest in this technology, right? And what we are noticing is from the transformation perspective, the time to market, any changes. I'm not talking about significant changes, but some small changes that is customer facing can be reduced by up to 40 to 60%. Imagine that. That is phenomenal. So that gives the technology or leverage for the local credit unions to now compete with the likes of Ubers, compete with the likes of Apples. Hey, if I can process that loan in the matter of 50%, isn't that amazing, right? That is what it is. And more importantly, that is cost friendly. How do I mean by that? What I mean by that is really citizen developers. You don't need to hire IT people. You really need to give just enough tools to the business people to make sure that they know everything about what the problem that they're trying to solve. If you give them just enough tools, they'll be able to build in an architecture and solve the problem that is significantly faster and also cost friendlier, right? Now, where does Creatio fit into all of this? Now, we have a lot of experience working with the banking industry, not just in the United States, but also in Canada, but also in the Europe. We also have banks in APAC region as well. So we are bringing all of that knowledge, and now we are able to cross-pollinate that ideas across the regions. Best practices from Europe. Let's introduce that in the United States. Let's do the same thing, vice versa, right? And that is an amazing thing. So when you start breaking down various applications or various processes from the front office perspective, which is what you're focusing on, customer onboarding, that is critical. How quickly can you onboard customers? How quickly can you open up an account? How quickly can you process loans? Now, all of those areas on the left-hand side can be broken down into smaller chunks, and each of them can be used. Applications can be built specifically for those niche areas using low-code, no-code Creatio applications, right? And the end result of all of that is amazing customer experience, customer loyalty, repeat business, and ultimately revenue growth. And that's what the banks are looking for. Now, with that information, let's just jump straight into the demonstration. So for the today's demonstration's sake, what I'm going to do is focus on a couple of areas. Number one is the consultation panel, because why is that important, right? So the reason it is important is because it is truly a customer facing areas, right? So imagine a situation about a month or 2 months ago, I had to go and open up a security, locker in a specific bank. And I noticed that the branch manager, when I knocked on his door and said, I want to open that up, was struggling to find my information in the CRM system. Wouldn't it be nice to have all of that information available at the fingertips for that banking customer or the branch manager, right? So that would be amazing. So whether that the customer journey comes in as a phone call or comes in as a walk-in to the local branch, this is what they can do. They can say, hey, who are you? And let me make sure that I'm speaking to the right person, because that, otherwise, I could be giving wrong informations to the other people. So additional validation, very quickly you're able to make sure that who are you? Let me make sure that your social security number or passport number matches up, confirm the birthday. And once that is done, you can basically start the consultation. Then very quickly, what is happening is in the background, we are kicking off business processes. And notice a couple of things are already happening in the background without me doing anything specifically, right? Number one, we auto identified who that customer is and then brought in specific information about Alex Wilson in this case to the branch manager. Now imagine this information is residing with the marketing team. This is residing with the service team. Branch manager is cut off from those teams completely. But in using Creatio low code, no code platform, you're able to bring that information and immediately you know that, hey, this is a pretty good customer. The churn rate is pretty low. He's doing significant amount of business with us. This is amazing. And also we are bringing them various, breaking down silos and saying how many cases he has going on, how many campaigns is he presenting, what kind of offers are the marketing team offering them. And simply by clicking on this, the offers will show up and then help the branch manager to understand what is going on. Now imagine that the customer in this case is looking to open up a home loan, right? So in that case, what can we do? Again, we don't want to start with something specific. Is it a consumer loan or home loans? And then basically help the branch manager to say that, hey, if the customer is simply understanding what are certain options from the loans perspective, we can then kick off a loans pre-calculations, which has a slightly different workflow to say that these are all the various options that we have. These are the amount of payments that will have to go and so on and so forth. Or if that is not an option for him, in that case, if he's really looking for kicking off a newer applications, again, by simply clicking on a new applications, we will kick off a new loan applications and then automatically collect the basic information about what kind of loans is that. Is it a mortgage? Is it a consumer loan? Various kinds of workflows. These are all various things that can be done. Automatically send it for credit analysis and then give a simple workflow for people to take it from beginning to the end. So those are all some of the key things that you can do using low code application. Now, on the other hand, what you can also do is take advantage of the low-code platform to do many other things. So in Creatio, you're probably already familiar that there is a studio platform that is integrated with any of the CRM platforms. So what can you potentially do with that? So with process libraries coming in here, you'll be able to understand uh, KYC process, so which means that the know your customer is something that you don't do one and done. You do it in a frequent basis, but it can also not only be on a timely basis, but it can also become based on a certain customer behavior, right? So maybe every 3 months in here, I'm going to kick off an KYC process, or anytime there's a new sale, the customer is coming in and trying to get a new credit card, then you want to understand who your customer is. Or maybe sometimes they're calling in and are asking for if they're eligible for a increased credit limit or whatever that may be. You will then basically kick off this KYC process done once using the low-code platform, where you have complete control over what kind of data is there, how do you delete data, how you modify data, the ability to call in a web service as a case, maybe pull in information from an external, Experian or Thomson Reuters or whatever that kind of applications, from credit analysis, FICO scores, so on and so forth. It's very easy to do that. As soon as you do that, correspondingly those web services attend as well, and then you can go ahead and start building your workflows correspondingly using very simple low code, no code business process. Right, that is one other thing. Now we can also extend this to other areas, and not necessarily from a process perspective, but also integrate that with within a marketing platform. So for example, I'm now looking at a particular contact, Regina King, right? So Regina King is living in a particular household, and when you go into her particular financial accounts, you now see that there is something called as a householding strategy. What does this actually mean? It simply means that within a given house, within a given address, there are multiple people living in that address. So from a banking perspective, you want to go ahead and start selling more products to them, right? So in this case, Regina King has a fixed mortgage, but then she's also reached out to the sales team and said that, hey, I'm interested in buying a credit card or travel card or something like that, right? And this is where the business process engine comes in. And as you already know, Creatio offers two kinds of business process. One is a unstructured business process. The other is a structured business process. So what I mean by that is, depending upon various kinds of opportunity workflows, we are giving them a workflow to say that, hey, as a front-facing employee of the bank, when it goes in the qualification stage, I need you to execute these kinds of tasks. Then it goes in the presentation stage, I need you to execute these tasks. And keep in mind that these tasks are very flexible. As I mentioned, these are all low code, no code. So what that means is basically there is no code that is being done. So these tasks, I'm simply basically writing basic English. And if I want to move this over into the next stage, I can simply drag and drop, right? Very easy to do, very easy to manage. You can understand bottlenecks and come up with creative solutions to overcome the bottlenecks in your lending process or whatever that process may be. But what we're doing is slightly more interesting. As the opportunity closes, we are now noticing there is something called as a kickoff. And let me actually execute that. Then I show you that user experience, and I'll show you what that actually means. So Regina King comes along, and it's time for her to complete the contracting. So she goes ahead and says, well, I'm interested in buying this credit card. Thank you so much, customer service agent. What can I do next? And now we're going to kick off the closed one. As soon as the opportunity is closed, you will see that a new workflow startup came up and said that, hey, do you want to set up householding for this particular customer because you're already talking to her? And if the answer is yes, let me go ahead and say yes. You select that, and you can see the contact already shows up as Regina King. And then what we do is, as soon as you select Regina King, we will go ahead and say that these are all the various accounts that she has had. And this is a credit card that she just got approved for. Let me go ahead and attach that to the credit card, and then go ahead and select the corresponding prototype and whatever that business card, and make sure the account status is opened as well. So once that is done, I will go ahead and mark that as saved. Now, what happens is, she's not the only person living in that household. This is a great opportunity to go ahead and say that, hey, are there other people living in that same household? And if so, this would be a great opportunity for us to come in and add them and build our householding strategy, which will then later on use in our marketing strategy, right? So in this case, I'm going to ask, are you going to add more household? If the answer is yes, let me click save. And then the same guideline comes in. But this time I'm not interested in Regina King because I already know who she is. Instead, I'm going to select another individual, in this case, Andrew Barber. And as soon as I select that, you can see that only Andrew Barber's account shows up. Maybe he's having a travel credit card, and now I can add him into the status as well. So it is very easy to start building this householding strategies, almost like playing a video game. And this process continues on until I say, no, I'm all set. I built all of the household that I want to build, and automatically the opportunity is closed. And we have built in a householding strategy. Now, of course, if we go into the customers record, Regina Cook, and then look into the financial accounts and look at the householding, you'll see that we already have Regina King, and also Regina Cook, and also Andrew Barber shows up in the householding strategy as well, right? So very quickly, by using low-code business process, we were able to do that. Now, the key question is, how did we do it? And this is how it is done. So this is the business process that kicks off, and then everything is done very much using low-code, no-code technology, right? All we're doing is reading in an opportunity. We are seeing who is our corresponding contact, and then we are going to kick off a simple page and say that, hey, do you want to set up a householding strategy? Yes or no? And conditionally, we're going to say if the answer is yes, then we're going to add a new household. And then we pick up a pre-configured page and give them options to start entering those account details. And then we pop up another question and say, do you want to add additional household? If the answer is yes, we continue this until everybody's added. If the answer is no, we will simply complete that business process. It's that simple. It's not that complicated at all. Anybody can learn this low code using Creatio in a matter of minutes or maybe a day or two, right? But what is the business impact of all of this? Ultimately, what it means is banks become more and more efficient. So for example, here I've created a segmentation rule to say that, hey, show me all of the households that currently has a mortgage with us, but they are not equal to savings account, meaning that they have a mortgage, whether that be adjustable or fixed, but they don't have a savings account with us. So that is a great way for us to understand, hey, here is Andrew Barber, here's Regina Cook, here's other people that I can use my marketing platform to start doing certain campaigns, drip campaigns, and start pushing savings accounts to them and try to grow my business. And this is the a way where I can start, expanding, improving my cross-sell and upsell, all done through low-code business process. So in the interest of time, Eric, I think I'm going to pause the demo right now, and let me see if there's any questions on the chat.
All right, let me take a look. I'll see if I can moderate them for you. All right. First question, what are the benefits of low code for banks that offer tailor-made solutions to their clients?
That's a great question. And I think I just answered that with the householding strategy that I just showed you. So householding is not a native object in any CRM. It needs to be built in. And that's a very specific area, but has a huge benefit for banks and credit unions. As a matter of fact, we built this householding demo that you saw within a matter of 2 hours, I think. So that's the positive of using the low code, no code. The only thing that is required is, does the people who are building it have sufficient business experience, understanding what is it that they're trying to achieve, what is it the end user is looking for. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it also enables that hyper personalization, right, within the bank. So if it's tailor-made, we can make sure that we're targeting customers with very personalized messaging and very personalized experience. And low code makes that possible by being able to design that experience, without any coding or development skills. So great answer there, Nandish. And I think that puts us pretty close to time. So our additional questions in the chat. So I thank you very much, Nandish, and we'll see you soon, my friend. Thanks, Eric, and thanks everyone for your time. Thank you so much. Thanks. Okay.
Welcome to our next session, which will be our digital circle discussion. So I'm pleased to be joined by my colleagues, Boris Potomkin. He's a consulting partner at Amdocs. Welcome, Boris.
Hey, Eric, welcome you as well, and thank you for inviting me. So hopefully to have a good session about disruption and innovation.
Of course. And I also see Chinti Weerasinghe, CEO, Digital Services, Mitra Innovations. Chinti, long time no see. How are you?
I know. How are you, Eric? Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to another productive session.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our final guest is Mallikarjun Bhatt. And Mallikarjun is Head of Asset and Wealth Management, Strategic Initiatives at Tata Consultancy. How are you, sir?
Very well, Eric. Thank you very much. And I must say that I look better in the picture than in the person.
I think that's true for all of us, right? Like
this is what COVID made for us.
That's right. We could put filters, we could put all kinds of things on pictures, but when it's live, not so much. Well, again, thank you very much, guys, for joining. And yeah, really looking forward to this discussion because, you know, when it comes to financial services, we know that there are a lot of disrupting outside factors that happen to the organization, and also the need for innovation is, you know, just tremendous in any organization, but within financial services specifically, given the fact that you know, competition is coming from everywhere. You really have to innovate to stay ahead of that competition. So I think a good way to kind of kick off the discussion here, and we'll keep it round table, guys. Just feel free to jump in. You know, so let's talk about what the biggest challenges are in the global financial services industry for 2021. And I'll just open it up, and whoever wants to jump in, talk about the challenges.
Sure.
Feel free.
Should I go in first? Maybe ladies
Absolutely,
first.
Chinti.
Ladies first.
So, I mean, emerging of fintechs, I think, and non-bank startups is really challenging the competitive landscape, I believe, in financial services. Really, I think forcing traditional institutions to completely rethink the way they do business. You know, obviously, things like data breaches, privacy concerns, all are a big part of it. And obviously, this is a highly regulated area, right? And if that wasn't enough, I think, you know, financial services will find their customers always demanding more and, you know, seeking around the clock personalized service. So I think, you know, what these banks and this industry really is looking at, you know, they have to look to the technology that is actually disrupting them to, you know, probably help them through that disruption as well. And unless they really transition from these legacy systems to new, fast-moving, agile systems, I think they are going to have challenges. Just to sort of be very specific, Eric, I think I was reading an article recently where it said Goldman Sachs estimated that the startup is probably going to, you know, take away something like $4.7 trillion in annual revenue, you know, diverted away from these traditional financial services companies. So that's, I guess, that is the opportunity as well as the challenge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's, you know, you look at, you know, companies like Chime, they're adding more customers per month than traditional banks.
Exactly.
Actually, taking a cue from what Chinti said, is one of the biggest challenges for a lot of these banks. And to put what you just said, Eric, in perspective, why Chime is able to do that and why not another mainstream bank, right? So the way clients have experienced working with a traditional financial services organization has been really from 2000s, I would say, right? And technology has progressed so much. Today, you open up your mobile and you get into something as simple as Chrome, and you get into a net banking app, you experience significant decay in experience, right? And that's what has been really helping these fintechs get a leg up. With that said, $4.7 trillion in context to $100 trillion is still a speck of the iceberg. Unless banks really do something about it, they will continue to lose market share, right? So the client experience is where we see a lot of emergence of funding. Net new dollars are being funded to modernize that experience for the banks. And the other biggest challenge for traditional financial services firms and even firms like Chime, while the story of adding net new clients is great, the cash burn is also really great, right? So becoming really competitive cost-wise is another biggest challenge, right? If you really step back and look at what has happened in the last 20 years or so, banks have always been at the forefront of technology, right? They've been the biggest consumers of technology for a very long time, and they'll continue to be so. So what's really changed now is the way the technology is being used to challenge the traditional banking system. And banks have done it really well, and my hope is they can do again as well. But these are the two big challenges that I see in the financial services landscape.
So maybe I will jump in maybe from a little bit different angle to what Shinti and Malik said. So I fully agree that definitely fintech innovation and disruption makes bank more kind of focused on the competition. But from the other hand, if you're looking from inside out of the bank, all banking existing systems, core banking, back office and middle office, and of course the channels should be digitalized fully in order to compete, but also in order to serve their clients in a way that any other technological companies, Google, Apple, is actually provide some expectation layer for all the banks. So, and in order to do so, bank inside has a lot of pressure also from the balance sheet generation, but still from the all the security and compliancy regulatory stuff to digitalize any process that they need to do in order to reduce their own costs, but also in order to provide more personalized offerings that can compete with what fintech does. And we see a lot of demand in the bank today for this digitalization that in COVID-19 took even for an extreme. Imagine that all the banking, contact centers, stopped in a minute, and everybody wanted to connect via chat and via digital channels. So we saw from our side a lot of demand for this digitalization, and I think today, even when COVID is more relaxing, bank will continue to disrupt internally more than externally. They need to be a technological company. Today there is a term like everybody is a fintech. So bank actually, if before they thought how to compete or maybe how to partner, they need to actually recreate themselves to be a fintech by all what they're doing, for how they're selecting the technology, how they operating, and how they provide the service to the customer.
Absolutely, and you touched on a good point, Boris. As we're speaking, we had a poll going in the background with the audience, and the question was, what do you think is the most critical challenge right now for banks? And interestingly enough, security breach came up at 50% of the polled audience. So when we talk about the concerns, right? We know that the financial services industry is one of the most highly regulated industries in the world, and being able to keep up with those regulatory compliance issues that they have, right, is a tremendous challenge for them. Those they're being launched very, very quickly. They're being updated, but compliance is almost immediate. You have to be compliant. And I really think that, low code comes into help with that, right? Being able to keep up with those changing regulatory compliances as well. So just an interesting poll to see come in as a big challenge.
So Shinti, you want to be the first to react to the poll numbers? Or you want to... Actually, I'm not surprised, Eric. I need to say, because maybe I will start just as a continuation, because we really see, first of all, security, it also means all the data privacy breaches that today any bank is experienced, especially when it opens their core banking and all this open banking trends to the third parties. It immediately translates to the security breach or data privacy breach that they need to manage. And all the regulations that, GDPR like, or in US and APAC, anyone tries to define, those regulations are still not in place practically to each and every banking process that they do. And we definitely see such demands in KYC processing, in all these anti-money laundering processes that need to be done, I think, in the real time today. It's not a situation when bank can wait for the end of day process just to analyzing all the transactionals that was fraud and etc. So I totally align with the poll result. I think this is definitely what we in Amdocs see as a trend. And together with Lau Code, Eric, like you mentioned, I think this is a great place to introduce such technologies that bank will own to define automation for all those threats in a short time. So for me, I think this is the right direction, and I will let Shinti and Malik to react as well.
Yeah, I think cybersecurity is one element, right? Regulation and risk coming from regulations is another element. One of the things that we are seeing a lot of our clients adopt is to actually create practices, right, focused around security as a whole, right from GDPR and an element of GDPR in every other jurisdiction. Each country has their own privacy standards. I would say it is good for the industry. Right? It brings trust in transactions, and to gain that trust, both emerging as well as mainstream banks, they need to do enough and more to follow through and ensure that the trust is kept in the system. And one of the interesting aspects of the regulations is and even cybersecurity is agility, right? And we see a lot of our clients struggle, like when there is a new product that is launched, a new mobile app that is launched. There is so much of manual review of client logins where they are happening to ensure that there is no incorrect usage from bad elements. All of that requires standing up review flows pretty fast, and that's where we are seeing greater reliance on no-code, low-code platforms to be able to quickly launch review mechanisms within a matter of months and weeks to be able to respond to those regulations, respond to those incidents better. So it's no surprise that 50% of the poll members feel that data breaches is right on top of their mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to probably have maybe a slight different perspective. I totally agree. I think security breaches is #1 concern for everybody. But I'm also wondering, is this why in the financial services, and maybe this is kind of a question for the folks in the industry, is this why that 50% of the industry is still sort of behind the 8 ball and still optimizing and not being disruptors, not being transformers? it's pretty clear. And is that itself the challenge, right? Now, if you think of a fintech looking into your business, they are going to think of new models. They're going to completely disrupt it. Where we found, a big percentage of financial services still sort of staying in the traditional way of looking at, expanding the business also in a traditional way. So it's an interesting sort of dilemma, if you will. I totally get it. I think security is top of mind. I'm not by any means sort of reducing the importance of it, but a lot of the industries, if you look for the past year, if you look at healthcare, they just completely revolutionized the way they operate. And I think that's something that the financial services industry needs to also look at pretty closely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point, and it actually puts a light on another question that I had. Within the financial services industry, because there's so many different products, because there's so many different applications that are being rolled out, just dozens of different products and applications that financial service organizations are offering. What I've seen in talking to customers is that a lot of their technology is either outdated or disconnected from each other. So it's really hard, to kind of innovate when you don't have a full picture of everything that's going on within the bank or financial institution. So when we look at low code and being able to kind of tie everything together, do you think that addresses those concerns for the bank? Will it help them innovate faster if they had a way to eliminate those siloed services that they have across the organization and bring them together into a kind of a single view of their customers, of their organization, of their employees, for that matter?
No, maybe I will start, Eric. I think you are absolutely right. We as Amdocs company focusing for a while also in telecommunication industry and media industry of product and pricing centralized management from the customer perspective. So customer was always a key. And in banking today, we see still this silo product-led strategies for different line of businesses that are actually not connected to each other. So the principle of bundles, like we know from telco, all these packages that you can sell to the customer are still in bank, is a kind of new things to bring to the market. And we definitely see this trend of starting to understand that from the customer point perspective, no matter how many products he has, or if it's a corporate business account, how many subsidiaries this organization has. In the end of the day, what is important to the customer is this centralized view of the whole assets that you have in specific bank, and how bank serves me, no matter if I'm business or retail client, in a better way, knowing what I have and what I prefer. Because individualization of your offering today should be a key in order to distinguish you as a bank from other competitors. So I think low code, it's today one of the main trends, together with all this platform as a service model. Instead of bringing a lot of different technologies for different line of businesses, we actually educate bank today how to come with what we call the product catalog principle, that organizing all the product data in one place and all the processes that need to serve once you have this product data in one place should be done via this low-code technologies that in this case we're also enjoying from partnering with Creatio platform and complementing this to automation that is customer driven and not product driven. So I totally agree.
Absolutely. I can maybe add to that, Eric. What was astounding for me is over 60% of customers leave any relationship, any business relationship, maybe financial service or any others, because of a bad experience, right? Compound that with all of these, disruptors bringing new ideas. I can tell you recently, I got completely, I've been banking with a certain bank a long time, completely got disrupted because somebody offered me a very cool virtual card, right? And it was personalized to me. They knew who I was. And I absolutely agree with Boris. It was about me, not about them. And I think the only way you can sort of really attract, onboard your customers and then service them is that, unified way of doing it. And that's, a great, how do you do that in a easy, agile ways through, local platforms like Creatio that are out in the market. And it's all about getting that data, into that center location, as well as, better ways of interoperability with other, maybe periphery service. Integration is important. And I think that's all simplified through the platform. And I think what's really great about local platforms is I think it democratizes, right, your ability to, become, I think, digital first. So, the biggest difference I see also between organizations is either they're digital first or they're just thinking of technology as an enabler. But I think what local platforms do is really helps them democratize and then enables them to really become more focused on the customer. And I think that's really important for attracting and expanding the business.
Yeah, I think just great points. I just want to throw in one additional point there. Hyper-personalization has been around for a long time, right? Like, and we are so used to it. You go into Amazon and search for a gadget. They know what you're going to do next, and it's already predicted, and the experience is orchestrated for you. The only way it can really happen is, if you have democratized data sciences as well. Right? So today we see a lot of our client organizations, put in a lot of effort to bring data from disparate sources, stitch them all together, and start looking at analytics. You really need a lot of data science power, right? You need people who can run those algorithms and analytics. One of the advantages of a low-code platform, or rather I should say a requirement of a low-code platform is not only being able to whip up apps fast, but at the same time also provide the required data sciences capability as well to drive that personalization. Right, and that's something in my view is where a lot of investments in the industry are going from a product perspective. Yeah, I just wanted to add that additional point there.
Yeah, great point. I would like to bring the audience in here a bit. So I'm going to take our final poll of the day and ask a question here. How often do you use mobile banking applications? That's going to lead me into our next question, guys, as well. So, as banks are, trying to, develop new ways of engaging with their customers, and everybody's moving to this, depending on how you want to define that, digital transformation. I know Amdocs, Tata Consultancy, Mitra, this is all you guys do, right? You work with organizations on their journey. How do you define that? What do you see, for financial institutions that may just be getting started? Where do they begin? How do they start that transformational journey, and what is the most kind of bang for their buck that they'll get in starting that journey?
Maybe I will start. So we definitely driving this what we're calling a design-led approach from the day one of any strategy of digital modernization. So we actually even acquired some companies that their business is to create these customer journeys regardless the technological stack that each bank has in the specific period of time. And actually the idea is to combine the banking clients and competition as a bank has today to drive this optimization of customer journeys in a way that will differentiate the bank from the brand perspective, but also from the customer preferences of the bank. So before you actually starting to put any code or any process in place, we are first providing this consultancy-led study that we are coming with our predefined templates for customer onboarding, for KYC processing. Today it's mostly KYC processing when a client has its own mobile and you need to follow some compliance rules in order to be onboarded. Then there is a product discovery of what is good for you based on some preferences and how it should be presented. It should be definitely identifying and prioritizing the client, etc., etc. And once we know all this journey, then and only then we actually start this technological assessment in order to align on how bank will going to implement it. And it brings an amazing results because it first provides the bank this differentiation angle from the competition, and immediately this A/B testing done on their customer base. So from the front end and the UX UI perspective, they know exactly what is the best view to their clients. And then the process layer and the orchestration layer to their core, we are doing with the technology that we also recommend. But first and most important is to drive this from design-led principle to provide this definition of the customer journey first.
Maybe I can, I don't, Malik, do you want to go next? I feel I keep jumping in when you want to talk.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I think I agree with Boris. I think if you think about digital transformation, I try to try and simplify it for my clients is in 3 layers. One is the layer that interacts with your customers, and this is where you would attract them, you would onboard them, engage with them, and retain them. So that is your customer engagement layer. The next is obviously also critical for us, like you were saying, the integration layer, where you're talking to your core systems. It could be multiple legacy systems, and that is really key. And the third is data. This is where you drive insights to really get the customer insights to personalize that information. I guess, where do you get started? I would probably, if you're a new bank setting aside, you'd start with the point in which you're going to engage with the clients and, take a design-led approach, because it's all about the customer. It's all about attracting them. It's all about, making sure they have a great experience. But in parallel, obviously, sort of get your integrations and your data ready, because the moment you onboard them, it's all about them, and you want to make sure that you're deriving the right data insights, you're connecting and engaging them and retaining them, and continuously creating a great experience for them. So, and there are multiple processes. Boris spoke about design-led thinking, with the Creatio platform. We also do a discovery demo, which is we work with you on designing exactly what that will look like. And it's all about getting you to see what it looks like before you even, invest in a product. So, that's how quickly the platform operates. And, so imagine, nobody really offers you to see something before you buy, right? So, and I think that's what the platform does, Creatio platform does, in just a matter of days. Malik, maybe you can add a few thoughts as well.
All I think great points. Design-led transformation, building an experience layer, integrations. We call it a digital spine, right? So the cloud data lake and leveraging technology. All of that are great points. One of the things that we often see some of our clients struggle is, as you very well articulated, Eric, in your question, is where do we start first? But to start first, where is the funding is the biggest question that we see our clients grapple with, right? There is all these great proposals on how do we transform the experience, how do we sort of build the Lego blocks needed to sustain a digital enterprise going forward. But the biggest question that we see our client base ask is how do we fund it, right? And today, if you really look at it, a lot of expense is logged in old systems, right? And managing and running those old systems. So what we have found before, jumping into a large experience-led or design-led transformation journey, clients need to be very, very careful about what in the mid and back offices they really want to change, so they are able to bring those required dollars to transform the front office, right? And we've seen clients take multiple approaches, like moving on to more as a service construct, start with some of those old core banking systems to move on to cloud, save some dollars, and pick up the digital transformation projects later on. But it's a very complex question, right? So it isn't easy to achieve, but yeah, that's an additional point that I wanted to add.
Great. Yeah. And I agree with all of those statements. And I think that, there's a common theme amongst them, right? One, you got to where do you start? You focus on the outcome, right? What is that where are you going to get your outcome? And that will drive your strategy, right? So perfect. Guys, I think that brings us right to time. Just a quick update on the poll results. So how often do you use mobile banking applications? Over 53% said every day, which I'm happy to see. I can't remember the last time I've used anything else but my mobile banking application. And the second place answer was 2 to 3 times a week. So that goes to show you, right? We have to start with the customer, put them at the center, give them what they want, that Amazon-like experience, and everything will work out. This was an amazing discussion, guys. I really appreciated having such experts in the industry to join me today on this call. As always, very riveting, and hopefully we'll see you again soon on our upcoming events, because always enjoy hearing from each of you.
Great. Thank you very much for having us here, Eric. Those polls were great, and I never thought cybersecurity was so high on on everybody's agenda. But great points from Boris and Chinti today. I've learned something from this conversation as well. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric, and good luck for this Low Code Marathon. I'm following you guys, and it's going really well. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, Chinti. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our presenters today. So we will be conducting our quiz for day 6. And just as a reminder, the quiz, put your answers in the chat section, and we will provide winners on tomorrow's session. So that cues you to tune in tomorrow to see if you're a winner. The question for today is, what is the term for a user who creates new business applications for consumption using development and runtime environments sanctioned by corporate IT? That's a mouthful. So yeah, feel free to put your answers in the chat, and we will announce the winners tomorrow. And as always, just a reminder to download our global report for state of low code, no code. Again, great survey, surveyed, and just some great statistics in there, guys. We also have, I've I've done a bit of technical difficulty here. I zoomed in and can't zoom out, so I'll just remind you of everything. We also have our 7.18 release. You can go out and download our trial version of 7.18 on our website, creatio.com. Have yourself a chance to look at different aspects. All right, so thank you very much for joining, and we'll see everybody again on tomorrow's session. Now what's happened here? I don't know what's happened here. All I did was click.
Oh, yes. you.